Hello, everyone. Want to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Michael Weeman. I go by Mike or Mr. Weeman, whichever you prefer. And today we're going to talk about welcome to the class, as well as some week 1 housekeeping items to get you started successfully inside the class. So the agenda in the video, we're going to talk about a welcome, a little bit about your instructor, give you a little bit of background on your facilitator of the class. We're going to talk about My Math Lab. That is the component where you're going to be completing probably about 90% of everything inside of the class. That's where you'll be completing the homework, quizzes, midterm, and final exam. We'll talk about the requirements of discussion forums. There's certain weeks where they will be graded, and there will be certain weeks where they're ungraded, and you can use that as the mechanism to earn attendance inside the class. We'll talk about time zone requirements. Everything inside of NAU is based upon mountain daylight time or mountain standard time. So depending on the time of the year, if it's after the first week of November through the first week of March, you're following mountain standard time. Otherwise, it is mountain daylight time. That may impact you as a student if it's the case where you live, say, in California in the Pacific time zone. You may be in a location where they do not observe daylight savings time, such as Arizona or Hawaii. Those locations you would need to adjust accordingly. Or if you live in the Midwest or in the East Coast or you're overseas, it's important to know from a time zone requirement how that's going to impact when things are due, especially discussion forums during the scope of the class. We'll also talk about honor lock. In this particular class, the final exam is proctored, and we utilize a system called honor lock to do the corresponding proctoring for the final exam that you will take week 11. So we'll talk more about that. There is a practice test that you're going to start the first week and will be open during the 11 weeks of the class to get you familiar with how to use honor lock as well, and it's worth 5 points inside the class. We'll talk about assignment 1.2, which is the MRC or the Math Resource Center assignment, how to complete that. That will be a short quiz that you will go to a different class portal, the Math Resource Center, to complete. We'll talk about late assignment policy. I think for most of you, you will be very happy that the majority of everything inside the class is going to be due the last day of the course, with the exception of the discussion forum. So we'll talk about that as we progress through this presentation. The other will dive into the expectations of the week 1 forum, which is an introduction forum. And then we'll talk about your instructor's availability. So let's go ahead and continue on here. Okay, as I mentioned before, I go by Mike or Mr. Weeman, whichever you prefer. My wife sometimes uses some other choice words to describe me. But in most parts, it's either Mike or Mr. Weeman, typically by how I go. My pronouns are he or him. Contact information that's listed here. Email address. That's the best way to get a hold of me during the scope of the course. If you send me an email, typically that response time is going to be within 24 hours, generally a lot quicker. There are some exceptions to that after Saturday afternoon through Sunday that I'll talk about later on. There is a Q&A forum that's inside the class portal where you can post general types of questions out there. I do ask no great communications. In other words, that is open to everybody inside the class. And per federal privacy laws, or what are referred to as FERPA laws, I can't respond to anything regarding grades. So if you post something out there that says, hey, why did I get partial credit on the first discussion forum or week 2's discussion forum, I'm not going to be able to respond to that. The email would be where you would want to do that correspondence. I am required to provide a phone number during the scope of the class. That is this 816-867-0401. I will tell you that that is a Google phone and it will go directly to email. So directly to voicemail, go directly to email. This is a requirement that I have to do. I do ask that you use the email. That's going to be the quickest way to get a hold of me. So if you leave a voicemail, that's perfectly fine. But via Google Voice, it will dictate the contents of that, and I will typically respond to your email. So that, again, is the best way to get a hold of you. For my background, I've been married 27 years to my wife, Kelly. She is one of the best that I've ever had. It's kind of one of those things where when you find somebody, you try to be as happy with them as possible, and I'm definitely that with my wife. I have a 15-year-old daughter, soon to be 21, it seems like, as of the time of the recording. We're currently, at the time of the recording, going through the process of learning how to drive. As you can tell, I am very follically challenged and gray from my goatee perspective. I will probably lose the remaining 4 follicles on the top of my head during this time frame. So as of the time recording, that is there. I've been teaching math and computer science, as well as statistics and other concepts inside of the math and the comp sci area for over 27 years. I've taught online close to 15 years in some mechanism, in some learning management system, be it D2L, which you currently use, and other platforms that other universities and colleges use out there. So I've been around for quite a while. I love what I'm doing in terms of teaching and facilitating courses, and hope over the next 11 weeks that you get a good experience. Okay, other things. I've been with NAU close to 13 years. This is the time of recording. I am a huge fan of the KC Chiefs as well as the St. Louis Cardinals. Those are my 2 favorite teams that are out there. I'm sure in your introduction postings, you will let me know otherwise why those 2 teams are not the best, to say the least. But again, I really enjoy baseball, pretty much any sport that's out there. I don't get into NBA. That's probably my one sport. Now, college hoops and March Madness, love it. I'll talk sports until I'm blue in the face. But the NBA is probably the only sport that I can honestly say that I really don't enjoy. Now, for those that like it, it's perfectly fine. But probably I can talk any other sport other than NBA, and I can have a great conversation with you. I also, from a game perspective, since I'm a math nerd, I love playing poker, especially No Limit and Limit Texas Hold'em. I do that on a regular basis. As you can tell, I haven't hit the millions like some of the professionals out there, so I'm still teaching, to say the least. So that's a little bit about me. Hopefully during the week 1 discussion forum, you can introduce yourself and we can get more acquainted as we progress through the course. Okay, I have an announcement that is inside of your class portal that is going to go through 3 things that you're going to want to do from day 1, or if you're previewing the course as of the Wednesday before it starts. If you review, let me go back, my apologies. There we go. There is an announcement that is inside your class portal that says MML, which stands for My Math Lab, or MSL, which is My Stat Lab. It's basically the same thing to complete your homework, quizzes, etc. But you're going to want to watch this video that I've got out there inside the announcements. It's going to cover 3 different things that are important inside of the class. The first of which is, how do you enroll into My Math Lab? That's very important. And it's going to talk about the access code that you should have received or will receive, depending on your enrollment status, from the university. That enrollment code is provided as part of your tuition, and that video is going to cover that in great detail. This video also is going to show you how to complete homework and quizzes inside the class. It will demonstrate the interface, how to key in answers, as well as how you would get feedback throughout the course in terms of, I've completed a homework assignment or I've completed a quiz. How do I see that feedback that's out there? The video is going to cover that in great detail. So I would recommend taking a look at that, especially during the first week. You want to ensure that you get enrolled into My Math Lab. And this video in the announcements will cover that all in great detail. So recommend taking a look at that as soon as possible. That is available inside the class portal underneath the announcements. Okay, some other things as well. Every week there is going to be a homework and a quiz assignment, but week 5 of the class, there is a midterm exam. The midterm exam is going to cover week 1 through week 4's material. The midterm exam is open from the first day of class. So if you want to work ahead, that's perfectly fine. You have the full 11 weeks to do every homework, quiz, and midterm exam, along with the corresponding practice exam. So during the entire 11 weeks of the class, you have the full visibility to go in and complete anything that's inside of My Math Lab, with the exception of the final exam. The final exam must be completed week 11, unless there's an extenuating circumstance. Please email me if there's a case where, hey, I'd like to take it early. I have no problem with that. You can correspond with me via my email address, the mweeman@national.edu, and you're welcome to take it early. Taking it late, that's a different story, because the class ends after the 11 weeks, and we'll talk about that more during the late assignment policy portion of this presentation. Now, the midterm, unlike the other assessments, is only one attempt. There is a practice midterm that's going to be out there that you can start as early as the first week of class if you want to, but typically that's done during week 5. That will prepare you for the same types of questions that you will see on that. If you review that video, in that MML, MSL video I just talked about earlier, that goes into great detail on that as well. So midterm is not proctored. The only thing that utilizes honor lock is going to be the final exam that you take week 11. So there's only 2 components that involve honor lock, which is going to be this assignment 1.2, which is a practice one, and then the final exam at the end. The midterm is not a proctored assessment. Going to the next slide here. Final exam, as I made mention, it's going to open at midnight on Monday of week 11. So Monday of week 11, final exam opens. It remains open for 7 calendar days afterwards. So it will close at Sunday at 11:59 p.m., either Mountain Standard Time or Mountain Daylight Time. So you have a full 7 days to complete that final exam. I bring this to your attention at the beginning of the class so that last week you have the time management set up to make sure that everything is ready to go so that you complete your final exam on time. Because final exam, as well as once that last day of class gets here, I do not accept it after that last day. And we'll, again, talk more about that as we progress through the late assignment policy once we get to it. Next slide here. Okay, there are graded discussion forums and non-graded discussion forums. In this class, there are a total of 6 discussion forums that will be graded. They will occur weeks 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, and 9. The week 6 is a little bit special one for the quantitative reasoning class. We'll cover that here in a minute. But there will be a total of 6 graded discussion forums in the class. The other weeks do not have a graded discussion forum. However, that is the mechanism that you earn attendance inside of the class. So we'll talk more about those here later on in the presentation. So weeks 2, 4, 7, 8, and 9, those 5 weeks, you have a discussion forum that is worth 15 points. In each of these housekeeping videos, I will cover what is on that discussion forum, what are the expectations. I'll also talk about what's a good post versus a not so good post in terms of ensuring that you get to those full 15 points on the discussion forum. So keep in mind, for every discussion forum, it opens 12 a.m. Mountain Standard Time or Mountain Daylight Time on Monday. It closes 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time or Mountain Daylight Time on Sunday. Discussion forums do not open early, nor are they accepted late. The only exception to that is if there is an accommodation that is accepted by the university, and I've been informed of that, you will receive correspondence from me telling you any deviation. Outside of an accommodation, discussion forums are never accepted late. So the only time that is an exception is if there is some form of an accommodation that you have with the university. And if you are underneath that umbrella, you will receive an email with me showing what you would need to do in lieu of that. But if you're not underneath any accommodation, they open 12 a.m. Mountain Standard Time or Daylight Time on Monday. They close 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time or Mountain Daylight Time on Sunday. Not accepted late. Okay, now some other key things you want to make sure that you keep in mind. Initial posts for these 5 weeks are worth 9 points. Your initial posts must be made by Thursday at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time or Mountain Daylight Time, depending on what time the class is going on, and it's not accepted late. So in other words, if you go at 12 a.m. Mountain Time on a Friday morning and it's not, if it posts at 12 a.m. Mountain Time on a Friday, you lose 9 of the 15 points. Now, you're asking, why are you being so harsh on this? What's the rationale of it? The underlying rationale is you can't have a discussion if you wait until Sunday evening to make all your posts. This is a requirement that I have inside the class, and it's not up for deviation on it. Because if we are having quality discussions inside of a class, you need to be making your posts by Thursday. For the majority of these discussions, it is not going to take you more than 10-15 minutes to make an initial post. With the exception of week 6, I'll talk about that one here in a little bit. But this is a non-negotiation inside of the class, unless underneath an accommodation prescribed by the university. So even if it's 12 a.m. Mountain time on a Friday, and you come up to me and say, Mike, I started it at 11:58-59 p.m. I'm going to talk about who's the gatekeeper or the timekeeper here in a minute. If it's not there by that time on Thursday before 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time, it does not count. It'll count as one of your responses, but it's not going to count as your initial post. That way, if it's there by Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all the students, all the adult learners inside the class can go in and respond to. So not having this requirement, typically students will procrastinate. I'm not making any insinuation here, but typically if this requirement's not there, and again, like I said, I've been teaching close to 27 years, 15 years online, students typically will wait until Sunday to make the post. It's not conducive to having quality discussions out there. So that is why that requirement is in place. The first quality response is worth 3 points. The second one is 3 points. Responses can be done anytime during the week. After you make your initial post, if you make it on a Monday and you go out and respond on a Tuesday, that's fine. Responses can be done at any point during the 7 days in which a discussion forum is open. But after 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time, either Mountain Standard Time or Mountain Daylight Time, the system is going to automatically lock you out from making any additional responses. So it's imperative, if you want to get to the 15 points on the discussion forum, your initial post is made by Thursday and your responses are made by Sunday. So again, on these particular weeks, weeks 2, 4, 6, which we'll talk about here in a minute, 7, 8, and 9. The other weeks, not as critical, but we'll talk about that later on inside the presentation. Now, as I made mention before, D2L or the class portal is the official timekeeper. So in other words, if you're waiting until 11 something Mountain Time on Thursday night to make your initial post, and if D2L says it posted at 12 a.m. Mountain Time on Friday or afterwards, I use what is inside of D2L as the date timestamp. So in other words, don't wait until late Thursday night to make the post, because life happens issues does not change the result. Coming into me and saying, Mike, I had to work late, my kid got sick, etc. While I'm empathetic to those items, this is attendance based. inside the class. So again, proper time management during the 11 weeks is essential, especially when making these discussion forum posts. So you need to have a time set up or chunk out 15 to 30 minutes between that Monday and Thursday, not late Thursday night, but sometime between that Monday, Thursday, to get that initial post in these 6 weeks. And then ensuring that you have those additional minutes to be available to get your 2 quality responses so that you can maximize that score of the 15 points on the discussion forum. Now, placeholders, a hello post, posting for attendance, you're going to get a nasty gram from me. I'm going to reply back to you via email and say that this is not acceptable from an initial post perspective. Now, we're going to talk about here in a minute, you must make your initial post before you see other posts inside of a discussion forum. That's to ensure that you're putting the quality and the effort inside of that initial post that's out there. But doing one of these is going to be a red flag. I'm going to reply back to you with a screenshot of the post and informing you that that is not going to count for points, nor will it count for attendance. So you need to ensure to put some thought into the initial post in terms of the quality. Now, I'm not expecting it to be 100% right. That's the dialogue that we'll have back and forth during that class week between the Monday and Sunday. However, don't just do hello or put some dots out there as a placeholder. It's not going to count for either one of those. So again, avoid those, avoid the nasty gram. You've been informed about it, etc., so that we don't have to go through that issue and no additional coaching is needed as a result. So please keep that in mind. Now, as I made mention, we already talked about this. The student must make a quality initial post before seeing the other posts inside the forum. So we already addressed that. Just want to reiterate, if you go out there in week 2's discussion forum, you're not going to see anybody else's post until you make one. Again, attempt it out there. If there's questions on it, don't hesitate to send me an email either on that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, asking me, hey, what's up? I'm not understanding what it's asking. Now, I will cover inside these weekly videos, kind of give you an overview of what's expected on that post so that you can use that as a basis to make that initial post each week, especially on these graded ones that are out there. Okay, now the quality of the posts, again, we already addressed, deleted by the instructor. This includes the responses as well. One thing I want to stress, especially on responses, the one sentence, you did a good job, great post, etc., is not going to get you points on a response. You need to put forth the effort and the quality on that response to help support it. Now, there's nothing wrong with giving praise. I'm not saying don't say a good job, but don't do it as a one sentence and the only thing that you post as a response. Again, been teaching 27 years, 15 years online. This is typically what students do on a Sunday night to say, hey, I got to get my 3 posts out there, etc. They're not going to count for points. So they're going to be very minimal points out there. If you're responding to somebody, take some quality in terms of what you're responding to out there. Correcting somebody's issue with inside of posting. Say, hey, I looked at your post and that calculation was not correct. That is something to keep in mind in terms of when you respond to somebody's out there. So constructive criticism. Don't go say your post sucks or something along those lines. That's not professional in terms of the response, but keep it math-centric. If you have another example to support your findings out there, that also counts as a quality response. You will also see out there in every graded forum, I also have a quality response opportunity that's out there. What that also allows you to do as one of your 2 responses is to go out and take one of the homework problems that you're working on during the week, post that out there, and show the underlying process of the way that you solve that. That counts as one of your 2 responses out there. Doesn't count as the initial post, You still have to answer the initial question out there, but you can use that as one of the responses, especially with the timing of this being asynchronous. You may want to get all your posts done Monday and Tuesday, and that's perfectly fine. Hopefully by that time, by Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday timeframe, you have something to respond to somebody or to respond to what I put out there. Especially on Monday through Thursday, while the initial posts are out there, I will be going out and responding to you with a follow-up question. You respond to that. Typically, it's very math-centric. And again, you can use that to maximize the full points. Now, when responding, this math-centric thing, I also want to iterate this as well. When doing the math-centric, make sure that you're showing an example to support the process that question asks. Giving me just a definition of what's there, you Google search and you copy paste it out there, is not going to get you to full credit. I want to see that you're understanding the concept when you're going in and doing that respective posting. So again, if there's questions on that, I'll be more than willing to discuss that with you further via email in terms of what's expected to maximize the score. But typically speaking, a big red flag, if you do a response out there that says great post or you did a good job and it's a one-sentence blurb, you're not going to get credit for it. This is not a first-term class, so I'm expecting the quality in terms of the postings that are out there. And again, if there's questions or concerns on that, don't hesitate to send me an email. We can dialogue back and forth in terms of that expectation. All right, next slide here. Week 6 is a little bit different. I like to make mention of this at the beginning of the class because week 6 is going to involve a little bit more than the other graded forms that we talked about, weeks 2, 4, 7, 8, and 9. This one will probably take you roughly about an hour to collect the data and do what's involved inside of this form. So I always like to, especially for those that are time management, like to write things down on a calendar, always like to tell students at the beginning of class, hey, when week 6 gets here, this forum, especially that Monday through Thursday to get the initial post out there, is not going to be a typical 15-minute type response. This may take you about an hour at least to collect the data and to write up what's required inside of the posting. Now, this form doesn't open early, unfortunately. This is a window that you're going to want to make sure that you have the bandwidth of the time between that Monday and Thursday of week 6. So again, same rules apply as the other ones. The major difference from week 6 is it's going to take you a little bit longer since it's a writing assignment. Initial post is worth 16 of the 20 points. Unlike the other graded forms where it was 9 of the 15, this one is worth 16 of the 20 points. You still have to do 2 quality responses. Those are only worth 2 points instead of 3 points for each of those. And all of the rules we talked about in terms of quality response, don't do a blurb of, hey, you did a great job, 1 sentence deal. You're not going to get credit for it. So again, as I made mention, all the other weeks, 2, 4, 7, 8, and 9 are followed that we've just talked about here inside this presentation. Okay. The mechanism that gets you attendance inside of the class are the discussion forums. Posting in a discussion forum earns you attendance. If you don't post in a discussion forum for a total of 14 or more consecutive days, you run the risk of not being, you can be dropped from the class as an attendance withdrawal. So the mechanism that is used inside the class portal from an online perspective is the discussion forums each week. You'll notice week 1 through week 11, there is either a graded forum or a non-graded forum. As long as you're out there within a 2-week period, you're not going to be dropped from the class. Now, there's extenuating circumstances. That is a dialogue that you have to have between you and your advisor, because as an instructor, I have no control over the attendance inside of the class. So do keep that in mind. But weeks 1, 3, 5, 10, and 11 are not graded discussion forums inside the class. So you earn attendance by making the posts in there. You don't have to make 2 quality responses in these weeks. The initial post will suffice as that. So the rule of 3 of the initial plus the 2 quality does not apply in these weeks. You do, if you want to earn attendance, it has to be 1 or more posts within a 14-day period. So that is why you'll notice there is a discussion forum each week that's out there. So this is the mechanism you earn attendance. Unfortunately, my math lab does not earn you attendance. So if you're not inside, if you're only doing homework and quizzes inside the class, that does not count as attendance. The only thing that triggers it is posts inside of a discussion forum. So I like to, students to be aware of that from day 1 inside the class. Okay, may mention this before, but just to reiterate, everything inside of this class is based upon Mountain Daylight Time or Mountain Standard Time, depending on the time of the year. Mountain Standard Time, first week in November, on that Sunday through the first week in March, and Mountain Daylight Time otherwise. Relative to where you are located, you will need to adjust accordingly. This is important inside of discussion forums. So if a discussion forum in week 2 is due 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time, you need to adjust accordingly to where you are located. There is a site, if you do a Google search on World Time Buddy, you can key in Rapid City, South Dakota as your home base and then compare where you live at. So for example, I live in Missouri, I'm in Central Time Zone. So if it's 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time on a Sunday, I'd have until 12:59 a.m. on a Monday. If I lived in Los Angeles, it's the exact opposite. It's an hour behind, so that's 10:59 p.m. on Sunday in that instance. So again, if there's questions on that, don't hesitate to send me an email. But sending me something saying, hey, I didn't realize the time differential, etc., is not going to be grounds for extensions, especially when it comes to discussion forum posts. Shouldn't be a reason you're waiting until Thursday night at 11:59 on a Thursday, or waiting to do your responses Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Again, time management is essential inside the class, and I strongly encourage you to set up a plan in terms of being successful so that you aren't waiting until the 11th hour to finish that. But where you are located dictates an adjustment relative to that. If you live in Denver, it's the same. You know, if you live in Daylight Time, Mountain Standard Time. If you're in Arizona, unfortunately, it's just they don't observe daylight savings time. So you may be the same, you may be different relative to the time of the year that's there. So again, that World Time Buddy, if you do a search on it, you can compare your time to Rapid City, South Dakota, and compare the time differential. Again, questions on that, don't hesitate to send that my way. Okay, another thing you're going to want to do week 1 is to get familiar with Honor Lock. Honor Lock, as I made mention, is going to be the proctoring service that's going to be used when you take the final exam. It's assigned week 1, you earn 5 points on it, and there is an announcement inside the class portal that will go through the step-by-step process. There is also a video that I've created inside that announcement that will demonstrate the step-by-step process to get familiar with Honor Lock. This remains open the entire 11 weeks of the class. So let's say week 1, you're on a certain PC, and then during the middle of the course, you change to a different one. You can take this Honor Lock practice test as many times as you want. It just needs to be done once to earn the 5 points on that assignment. So again, that video demonstration, you will see this announcement that's out there, the link that's there inside that announcement you can reference to. So it will go through step by step inside that announcement on the steps that are there. Students like the video, or it's also written out in English verbiage to go through as well. So that is going to be one of the milestones or things that you're going to want to start to take a look at week 1. The other thing as well inside of week 1 is going to be the Maths Resource Center quiz. Underneath your list of classes, if everything was set up correctly, you are going to have a link to the Math Resource Center. Inside of that class portal, it's not the one that you're enrolled in for quantitative reasoning. It is a separate one. And again, this announcement covers all this. Notice the listing here for the Math Resource Center. You're going to want to open that class portal, and you will see inside there will be an assignment 1.2. You take this 10-question quiz inside of the Math Resource Center. It's different things related to late assignment policy, how you can get help inside the course, just some logistics type things that's there. You can take that quiz as many times as you want during the first 3 weeks of the class, so that quiz will remain open for 3 weeks. So during week 1, 2, or 3, you will want to ensure that you complete that Math Resource Center quiz that's out there. So again, that is also worth 5 points inside the class. The instructor will go in and update that on a weekly basis on Monday mornings. So this is the only thing inside the class where the score doesn't instantaneously appear. It's not automatic. These are only done updates on Monday mornings. So if you take it during week 1, you would see it week 2 of Monday when you would go in and see the updated score out of 5 points inside your class grades inside the class portal. Okay, let's talk late assignment policy. 90% of everything inside the class, you have until the last day of the class without penalty to complete. And folks, I totally get it. We are all adults. We have life happens events that are out there. So I try to make this as flexible as possible during the 11 weeks. Now, on the flip side of this, don't come to me Saturday, Sunday of week 11 and tell me, Mike, Mr. Weeman, hey, I've ran out of time. I'm not going to get all of the 9-10 homework assignments or 9-10 quizzes in the midterm, and I'm just behind, etc. Use time management over the 11 weeks. Utilizing this flexibility, I'm accounting for life happens events that you may experience during the 11 weeks. So it's not necessary to send me emails telling me, hey, I'm running behind on the homework, etc. That I'm just informing you inside the video here that everything that's listed there, the homework, the quizzes, midterm exam, corresponding practice, practice final exam, the ILAC practice test, all of that stays open the entire 11 weeks of the class. So after Sunday of week 11 at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time, either Mountain Standard Time or Mountain Daylight Time, unless an incomplete is administered by administration, you will not be able to submit anything more on it. So I'm trying to be as flexible as possible, but the student also has to have some accountability in terms of ensuring this stuff gets done over the scope of the 11 weeks. Okay. Now, final exam is a little bit different. This assessment opens the last week of the class. Now, I alluded to this earlier inside the presentation. If there's a reason you want to take it early, send me an email. I'm flexible in terms of you taking it early. Taking it late, the answer to that is no. It has to be completed Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time on the very last day of the class. So again, if you know ahead of time that something's coming up for work or something else is going on and you want to take it early, I'm perfectly fine with that. Late, on the other hand, class ends after 11 weeks and grades are submitted the next day afterwards. So again, want to ensure that I'm trying to be flexible, but at the same token, we don't go 11 weeks in 2 days or 11 weeks in another week, unless there is an extenuating circumstance that we need to address. And again, that would be part of the incomplete process that you would need to address with administration and the instructor. Okay, moving on. The assignment 1.2 I made mention of this earlier. It's only open the first 3 weeks of class. So week 1, week 2, and week 3 of the course is the only time that this quiz. This is only worth 5 points out of the scope of the 1,000 points that are possible inside the class. Literally, this quiz will take you, if you do it all correct in the first attempt, no more than 5 minutes to complete. You can take an unlimited amount of times to get to the full 5 points on it. But again, this is only open the first 3 weeks of the class. This also includes any accommodation that's out there. So if you're under some accommodation with the university, this is the only exception where I hold firm to this. Because technically, if you look at the late assignment policy from the university, I do not have to accept assignments after 2 weeks after the due date. So technically, this assignment is due Sunday of week 1. 14 days afterwards would be the window of required acceptance of that assignment afterwards. So in other words, with any accommodation, it's 21 days. On all the other assignments, it's 11 weeks. But this one requires, as the math faculty lead, to do some things between the Math Resource Center to get it into your grade book. And I only do that the first 3 weeks of the course. So again, this is the only one. Again, it's a very minimal part of the grade, but if you want to complete it, it's only accepted weeks 1, 2, and 3 of the course. Now, discussion forums, as we talked about before, they open 12 a.m. Mountain Standard Time or Mountain Daylight Time on Monday. They close at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time or Mountain Daylight Time on Sunday, with the initial post being done by Thursday at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time, either Mountain Standard Time or Mountain Daylight Time. So you lose 60%, the 9 out of the 15, or the 16 out of 20 on that week 6 one. But again, they are not opened early. They are not extended late. This is the only thing that is really time sensitive in the class because it is attendance based. Discussion forums only make up roughly about 8-9% of the total class grade. So could it make the difference between, say, an A or a B at the end of the class? The answer to that is yes. So missing 1 or 15 points is a minimal part. If you're doing that throughout all of the 11 weeks or these 6 weeks that are out there, yeah, it's going to have an impact. But missing 1 discussion forum or potentially getting a low score on one of the forums is not the end of the world. So again, they are a minimal part of the grade, and they are not extended late unless there is some accommodation that NAU administration has been informed of me. And again, as I made mention before, you would have received some form of correspondence from me saying this is the way you handle it via the accommodation. But again, if you're not underneath any accommodation, Monday to Sunday, doesn't open early, doesn't extend late. So, and again, the basis is these are attendance based. In week 1, we're dealing with week 1's discussion forum. Week 2, week 2's discussion forum. Week 3, week 3's discussion forum, and so on. All right. Again, we just covered this, but again, week 1's discussion forum opens 12 a.m. Monday, closes 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time on Sunday. For week 1's discussion forum, it is not graded. It is only attendance based. Week 1 is an introduction forum. I'd love to get to know each of you inside of the class. So inside of this forum, you're going to introduce yourself. Tell me a few things about you. I told you a few things at the beginning of the presentation. So to get to know you a little bit, I'll respond to each initial post that's out there on this particular forum so that we can get off to a good start inside of the class. So again, not graded this first week, but again, this is a mechanism. 1, you can earn attendance by making the posting, as well as getting to know you as the adult learner between you, the other cohorts inside the class, and the faculty. So that's the purpose of that discussion forum that's there. And then last but not least, my availability. Typically speaking, if you send me an email or the voicemail that goes to email, and then I reply to you via email, my benchmark to get back with you is within 24 hours. unless I announce inside the class portal saying, hey, I'm going to be gone Monday or Tuesday due to X, Y, and Z, I'll respond to everything on Wednesday. But typically speaking, if everything's normal inside the week, I respond Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday morning. If you send me anything Saturday afternoon and or Sunday, you typically will not get a response from me until Monday morning. Now, I don't always hold to that. Sometimes I have time. I'll check Sunday morning and I'll respond to you. But just as a normal across the board, students can get in inside out of the class and do it during the class week. The instructor also needs time off as well. We are only required to be inside the class 5 days a week. I do 6 days a week on my end. So that's what I do from that standpoint. Hopefully this was informative. If there's any questions, don't hesitate. Send me an email to this mweman@national.edu. Thanks.